Hi, I'm Doris Purchase, and welcome to Beyond the Frame, a podcast created just for you by Propeller Art Gallery, artists empowering artists in Toronto. Together, we'll take a deep dive into the hearts and minds of working visual artists today and their practice. In each episode, you will hear illuminating and intimate explorations of all things art, and you'll hear it in the artist's own voice. We'll talk process, inspiration, challenges, and much more. Everything you've ever wanted to know about art making or about the artists themselves happens right here. So let's sit back and have a listen, shall we? Today we welcome Behrad Motekallem. Which ism is it? Under which ism would you classify your work?
That's a good question. To be honest, it's not really something that I think about almost ever. I have specific movements that I'm more drawn to in terms of art history that I draw a lot of inspiration from, but in terms of where I place my own work into that framework of art history, I wouldn't even be able to say what ism my work is. I'm more focused right now on creating a work that feels honest to who I am and coming from my own perspective of the world. And I think that might sound a little bit maybe strange for some people. I mean, there's a lot of artists right now who are really specific in what they do, and that's really well defined. But for me, I read a quote by the Spanish surrealist artist when I went to an exhibition by him, Juan Miro, and the quote went something like, he believes that the more local something it is, the more universal it is, which sounds kind of paradoxical, but I think that's true in some ways. And for me, the local is just the individual person, and that being me in this case. So,
Who's your muse? Influencers, educators, mentors, who has greatly inspired you?
So in terms of the inspirations and the muse, right now I'm looking a lot at paintings because that's what I work with. And right now, my favorites that I draw a lot of inspiration from and that I try to learn from, I try to take something from them when I look at them, is Talar. He's a Dutch painter, I believe. And another is Peter Doig, who's kind of all over, but I believe he's English Trinidadian artist. Yeah, those are the ones I'm really looking a lot at right now for many reasons. I think for Talar, I think one of the big reasons I look at his works and what I'm trying to gain from looking at his works is he has this ability to, I think, transform anything into something quite unlike what it normally is in reality, something that it's kind of like magic. He takes something every day and changes it into something from a different world, which I really, really appreciate that, even though sometimes it can be something so little, something so unremarkable, but the fact that he's able to twist it in this special way, I think, is quite amazing. And for Peter Doig, I really like the way he creates these narratives in his work, how he can draw inspirations, mix and balance and juggle ideas and references from seemingly unconnected places. That's also something amazing that I try to incorporate into my own work as well. And also just the painting themselves that they make, both of them are really amazing paintings.
Materials matter. What are your chosen favorite tools and preferred medium?
My favorite medium is oil painting. That's mainly what I work in right now. Sometimes I do a little bit of collage mixed in with the oil painting, but right now I'm just focused on oil painting itself and, all of the complications and everything that comes with that. I think that modernist question of what can oil painting do that no other medium can do, what is specific to oil painting, and I think the answer to that is quite simple. It's just that oil painting is oil painting and no other medium can be oil painting, and for me that's enough. And for me, it's what I'm most comfortable with to express what I want to express, and I'm satisfied through that medium, so that's why I use it personally. And there's a lot that you can get out of it, so it's endless.
Slump secrets. What methods do you employ to get yourself out of a slump?
The method I employ, I think the more I'm painting, the more I'm starting to see pattern in the way that I work. Although, I mean, I'm still young, so I'm still learning so much all the time, but the more I do paint, the more I'm realizing there's a pattern, which, I mean, within the pattern, there's nothing strict about it. It's sort of just kind of like the path of least resistance for me. Like a lightning bolt that follows the path of least resistance, the way that the bolt is shaped. I think that's kind of what I try to do in my artistic process too. Just be as free, start from a place of freedom, and from there start to really dig into what it is I'm doing. But it's just to be free and in what I do and have fun. I mean, if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, I never continue the painting. I just scrap it or I just do something else. I'm never not enjoying when I'm painting. And I think that's an important thing because sometimes when I look at paintings by other people and I can tell that they didn't have fun when they were making it, and I think that comes through the painting and just when you look at it through the brush strokes, through everything, and it kind of kills the viewing experience. And so I want to always have fun, and I hope that that energy and the energy of it comes through the work itself. And other than that, in terms of the method, the creative method is it's always strange, I guess, and always different for everybody. But for me, I think it's like connected dots. All of the stuff that's going on in your life, all of the stuff that's happening in your world, they just connect together in some weird ways and some impulses that come to you. Like for my last painting I did, I was online and I was looking at old Greek and Roman statues, marble statues, and I found a picture. I think it was a sculpture of Aphrodite, and her body the sculpture was completely ruined over time, and she was missing half her face, and she had no arms. And recently I was also in the Canadian forest in nature, and I had the impulse to paint that sculpture, that woman without her arms and without half her face, and I just wanted to put her in the Canadian wilderness sort of landscape, and that's what I did. And so, I mean, the creative method is strange like that. I mean, the impulse can come to you at any time, connecting different things together.
In the beginning. So tell me a bit about your process. Do you have a bag of tricks, lucky talismans, or habits? Where do you start? And more importantly, when do you stop?
The last answer was kind of in part with that. But I mean, there's some more things like going on about the impulse thing. I think that it's important to trust those impulses that come to you, and in this just a flash moment where something just comes to you, and it's important just to not let it just go wash over you, to try to write it down or try to sketch it out or something, which you can always come back to it later or change it in some ways if it's not as fresh to you as it was back then when you got it. And also to be sensitive to what's going on inside of you at all times. I think that's important to be aware, because, I mean, at least for me, because everything that I do, all the work I do is coming from there. So the more sensitive I am, I think, to that stuff, the more sensitive I am to myself, my own thoughts, my own emotions, my own anything, really, just anything, the more aware I am, and the more, I guess, I don't know if deeper is the right word, but the more I can continue, the more I can keep going. And I mean, it's endless. So, for example, like when I'm painting too, I'm trying to be as conscious as I can be of what I'm doing in the exact moment that I'm doing it. Like, not in any way where it's kind of makes me overthink, but just doing it, sort of like just doing it and then responding to it in my own mental states. Like, you put down a brush stroke and then you kind of have an innate response of what does that convey. I mean, it's completely abstract. There's nothing like, you can't say that brush stroke conveys to you, this meaning or anything, but it does convey something in that moment when you put it down. And the more aware I am of that, I think the work, it becomes better and better.
Calling all emo. What do you wish people to think or feel when they contemplate your work?
Nothing specific that I want them to feel or think. I mean, I get it, the question is not specific either, but I don't like it when somebody will ask me, like, what does it mean? I think a lot of artists or painters or whatever, they wouldn't like that question either. I think the person who is engaging with the work should try to put in at least the minimum effort to to say that it's pretty or not pretty, or that they like the colors or something, you know. That'd be enough in my mind. But I also hope that people can engage with the paintings also in a more deeper way as well. I mean, it doesn't need to be any conceptual, big subject on politics or philosophy. It can just be that the painting makes them sad in some way and it reminds them of this memory, or that means a lot too. I do think that painting has the ability to communicate and to translate something between individuals. So I do think that it's important to look at paintings and to engage with them, to really engage with them, not just the passive, looking at them, which I feel like a lot of people, that's the only way they know how to engage with painting, unfortunately. Yeah, I guess in terms of going back to the question, is just that I want that people really try to put the work into their own understanding in some way, and try to not to understand it, but to engage and to respond with it. I mean, even if that leads nowhere, that's still something. So
the struggle is real. Talk to me about your biggest challenges as an artist. What methods do you use to overcome these challenges?
Biggest challenges, I mean, there's always challenges that are external to the art practice itself. I mean, they're not completely disconnected because, I mean, it all comes together. But, like, for example, how you want to pay rent and all this stuff, I mean, that's always one challenge. I mean, that does inevitably affect your process and your work. But I'm not really going to get into that. But in terms of the actual work itself, I think an important thing is to work every day so that your mind is always in that place, to really be thinking about, art all the time in some ways. I mean, not because it's like a job or you're forcing yourself to, but just because it's natural to you, just because that's what you love and that's what you think about all the time. It's just the way it is. It's like breathing. I think when you're in that mind space, then, I mean, it's impossible not to have a million ideas. I mean, just to keep going, because they're always there. The ideas are always there. It doesn't matter. I mean, you don't need to be having this crazy bohemian life that we might subscribe to some artists in the past. You can just be living a simple life, doing anything, anything. As long as you're in that mind space, then you can draw from that endlessly. So I think that's the most important thing, to try to figure out a way to stay in that mindset. And for me, I think that comes pretty easy for me because I do have the opportunity to work pretty much every day. And even if I'm not able to work those specific days, I mean, I have other things that inspire me, like reading poem, reading a novel, reading anything, or just, going online and reading about painting, or just discovering a new painter that I've never heard about before.
Picture perfect. In your opinion, what constitutes a perfect piece of art? And what qualities in your own work would you signify as a perfect work? For example, perfect composition, confident brushstrokes illustrating a concept, or something else altogether.
I think there's two camps of when you ask people this question, where some people might be like I don't believe in perfection, and their work is what it is. And there's another camp that maybe they do believe in perfection, like that are more formalist in the way that they approach their work. But me, I think there is a perfection, but the perfection is not tied to any objective standards. It's just kind of like a subjective perfection, which, I mean, that kind of sounds paradoxical when you think about it, but I think that all those things that may be considered to be accidents or mistakes, because those are the things that make it what it is. And even though, I mean, they're imperfections in some way, I mean, really they're perfect, because without it, it wouldn't be what it was. So, and also in terms of when it's done, I think when I'm painting the very early stages of painting, I noticed that I have a couple elements that I'm working with, a couple primary elements, I guess, that I'm working with in the painting, and these are what I need to make work in the work. And for a long time, I mean, as you paint, they're kind of not in any harmony at all. But the more you work and the more you try to but to bring everything together, the more closer you get. And I think there's a point where in each work where all the elements are not distinct anymore. They're not distinct, this is that, but they come together in some way to create this whole. And for me, it's a big moment in the painting. I always know when the painting is done, because it seems like the painting it starts to dance, and all the brush strokes start to dance together, instead of, some of them dancing here, some of them dancing there, and they're all kind of doing their own thing. But once it gets to that point where they all come together to form the whole, they're all together and they're all coming together to for the big dance of the entire painting.
Art Speak. How do you feel about titling, discussing, and explaining your work?
I think titling is a playful part of making painting, for me at least. Maybe for some other painters it can be torture. But for me, I think it's playful, and it allows language to come in an interesting way, where the language is kind of informing the work. But this can also be a tricky situation, because you never want the title to literally say what you painted, because then why would you even have that title? I mean, the painting is already there, so there's no need for that. But if you can play with it in some poetic way, or also, I mean, you don't want to be like too, pretentious in any way. Yeah, I don't know. I think just it can be playful. It can be playful, and you can have fun with it, and it can be witty and smart, but without being too big on itself and too high on itself. And the explaining the work, it's a hard thing and also an easy thing at the same time, because I could talk about my own work for forever, just keep going on and on. But it's also frustrating, because no matter how much, if I talk to you about a painting that I did over the phone, I mean, just through the words, you will never be able to picture the painting in your head. I mean, maybe some elements of it, but not the painting itself in your head, because it would just be impossible. There's a gap between the language and the painting itself, which I think is necessary. Otherwise, I mean, why even paint? You can just write an essay. So I think when you're listening to the artist speak about their own work, I think it's also important to recognize that, and to not expect some grand meaning in their work. Or, I mean, there could be some grand thing, but I mean, a lot of it is also just beyond the artists themselves to communicate. It's the painting is the one that's communicating. It's not the words that are coming out from me or the artist.
Heavy metal or classical? What do you listen to while you work? Or is silence your thing?
Yeah, that is a good question. I can see why everybody likes this one. I do listen to music, like, all the time when I'm painting, almost always. But that's just me. I'm always listening to music, constantly. Right now, I'm listening to a lot of salsa music, a lot of Cuban music, Puerto Rican music, a lot of Latin music in general. I really like. I think it has a good energy. There's a good sense of life in the music, so I like to listen to that a lot right now. But I'm always changing. I'm always going from one genre to another genre and listening to anything, really. Yeah, I mean, right now I'm listening to like Latin music, salsa music, and then another day I can be listening to reggae music or anything. You can just keep going on and on. So I love music, and I love to listen to music when I'm painting. And sometimes there's a certain mood that I'm trying to get at when I'm painting, and it helps to get in that mood by putting on the music, because music is like, it's such a explicitly emotional form of art where it directly communicates and it appeals to your emotional sensibilities. So it's a good tool in that way to go into that mood. I don't know, it sounds weird to even call music a tool.
Why for art, though? Why do you make art?
Why do I make art? Well, I think I just love to do it. I just love to paint. I've always been drawing. I've always been doing painting when I have the opportunity to do it. It comes naturally to me. When I was 2 years old, 3 years old, and I pick up pencil and I start drawing on the walls. Why does that little child like to draw? And I don't think the child would know even how to respond to that. But I think it's important for me to do it because I think it comes down to expression. There's some stuff that I want to express in some way, and well, for me, I can do that through visual art. So painting for me, I just got a studio for myself last year for 1 year now. It's been a year since I've just got a studio for myself after I graduated from university the year before that, and it's only been 1 year, but I think I'm of the opinion that everybody should have a studio and that everybody should be making art. I mean, it's really important for my own well-being just to be able to get something out there. And after a while, I start to notice that I can look at paintings and I can say, I remember the kind of where I was at when I was making that work, and it's kind of like a big diary that's open for the world to see in some way, but also not that explicit, and hopefully not that melodramatic. It is like a progression of your own life in some way, and your own growing up and maturing, and it's just it's really fascinating even for me to have all my paintings in one place, and then I can look at them from, oh, I made this, like a year ago, and what I'm making now. I mean, it's a big difference. So it's really interesting, and yeah, just in terms of the well-being that comes from it, I think that for me it's turned into like the rock in my life where I can always just go back to, and no matter what, I mean, I can always paint. So that gives me a sense of comfort, and it gives me a good feeling. So I trust that feeling.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Frame, a PAG podcast. To hear more episodes and to view the artist's works, please visit www.propellerartgallery.ca. Hosted by Doris Purchase, produced by Tracy Thomson, and recorded at the Orange Lounge Studio in Toronto. Also, the Propeller Art Gallery recognizes the presence of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Huron-Wendat nations. We acknowledge we are hosted on land governed by Treaty 13, the Toronto Purchase, the Two-Row Wampum Treaty, and the Dish with One Spoon Treaty. We are committed to peaceably sharing and caring for the resources around the Great Lakes and operating the gallery on the principles of inclusiveness as we continue to exhibit art created by artists from all over the world. Thank you for listening.